Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we will begin. We're reading from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 10. And first, I wanted to just play, it's 57 seconds. And it's Srila Prabhupada speaking, so I wanted to bring him.
The symptoms of Kali Yuga is very, very severe, and it will grow more and more. We have simply passed 5,000 years only of the Kali Yuga, but the duration of Kali Yuga is 432,000 of years. Out of only we have passed 5,000 years. And after passing 5,000 years, we find so many difficulties. And the more we grow in this Kali Yuga, the days will be more and more difficult. The best thing is that you finish your Krishna consciousness business and go back to home, back to God.
Thank you. Srila Prabhupada wants us to go back home, back to Godhead. So we're starting on text number 89. Whoops. So Prabhupada wants us to really take this seriously. That Kali Yugas only have 5,000 years so far, and it's going to get worse and worse. So he wants us to finish our Krishna conscious life and go back home, back to Godhead. Is there someone who would like to chant the verse? It's Madhya Lila, chapter 10, text 89. Is anyone who would like to chant the verse? It's in the book. Oh, it's up here. Oh my goodness. Okay. Go right ahead.
Prabhura samachara suni kulina gramavasi Satya Raja Ramananda Mila sabe asi.
The inhabitants of Kulina Gram, Satyaraj, Ramananda, and all other devotees there came and joined Advaita Acharya. Next verse, please. Just pass the mic or sing. Mukunda Narahari.
Mukunda Narahari Raghunandana Kanda Haite Acharya Rathani Aila Nila Chelayaite.
Okay, so the next person should be ready. Mukunda, Narahari, Raghunandan, and all the others came from Kanda to Advaita Acharya's home to accompany him to Jagannath Puri. Prabhuji.
Se kale dakshina haite Paramananda Puri Ganga tire tire aila Nadia Nagari.
At that time, Paramananda Puri came from South India, traveling along the banks of the Ganges. He ultimately reached the town of Nadia. Text 92.
Aira mandira sukhe karila vishrama Aitanre bhiksha dila kariya samana.
At Navadvip, Paramananda Puri took his board and lodging at the house of Sachimata. She provided him with everything very respectfully. Text 93.
Prabhura agamana tenha tanai shunila shigara nilachal yete tanraicha haila.
While residing at the house of Sachimata, Paramananda Puri heard the news of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu return to Jagannath Puri. He therefore decided to go there as soon as possible.
प्रभुरा एका भक्ता द्विजा कमला कांत नामा तांरेला नीला चले करीला प्रयाणा.
There was a devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu named Dvija Kamalakanta, whom Paramananda Puri took with him to Jagannath Puri. So the devotees, some devotees had accompanied Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in South India. And so now the tour is completed and they're all, Lord Chaitanya is coming back to Jagannath Puri. So they're all traveling in different ways, some together, some alone. One devotee's following the banks of the Ganges on his way to Jagannath Puri. So next verse, please.
सत्वारे आसिया तेन्हा मिलीरा प्रभुरे प्रभुरा आनंद हायला पाणा ताण हारे.
Paramananda Puri very soon arrived at Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's place. The Lord was very happy to see him. Next verse, Prem, 96. Is anybody home? Come closer so you can see.
प्रेम दिवस प्रेम द्वेष केला ताना रे चरण बंधाना तेन्हा प्रेमा द्वेष केला प्रभु रे आई लिंगाना.
Thank you very much. In the great ecstasy of love, the Lord worshipped the lotus feet of Paramananda Puri. In turn, Paramananda Puri embraced the Lord in great ecstasy. Text 97. Does anyone have the mic? Where's the mic? Oh, there we go.
Muri krupa kari kara neladri asreya.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Please stay with me, and thus show me the favor, accepting the lotus feet of Jagannath Puri."
पुरी कहे तोमा संगे रहिते वांचा करी गौड़ा हते चली आइलाना नीलाचल पुरी.
Paramananda Puri replied, "I also wish to stay with you. Therefore I have come from Bengal, Goda, to Jagannath Puri." 99.
दक्षिणा हते सुनी तोमारा आगमना साची आनंदिता आरायता भक्त गाना.
At Navadweep, Mother Sachi and all the other devotees were very glad to hear about your return from South India. 100.
साबे आसित चना तोमारे देखीते तान साबर विलंब देखी आई लंगा त्वरिते.
They are all coming here to see you. But seeing that they were delayed, I came alone very quickly. 101.
काशी मिश्रेर आवासे निभृत एक घर प्रभु तार दिल आर सेवार किंकर.
There was a solitary room at Kashi Mishra's house, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave it to Paramananda Puri. He also gave him a servant. 102.
आर्य दिने आयला स्वरूप दामोदर प्रभुर अत्यंत मर्मी रसेर सागर.
Swarup Damodar also arrived the next day. He was a very intimate friend of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's, and he was an ocean of transcendental mellows. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Prabhupada Ki Jai. Purport. Sarupa is one of the names of a brahmachari in Sankaracharya's disciplic succession. In the Vedic discipline, there are 10 names for sannyasis, and it is customary for a brahmachari assisting a sannyasi of the designation tirtha or ashram to receive the title Swarup Damodar. Sarup was formerly a resident of Navadvip, and his name was Purushottam Acharya. When he went to Varanasi, he took sannyas from a sannyasi designated tirtha. Although he received the title Swarup in his brahmachari stage, he did not change his name when he took sannyas. Actually, as a sannyasi, he should have been called tirtha, but he chose to retain his original brahmachari title of Swarup. Next verse.
Purushottama Chandra Nama Purvashame Navadvipe Chilatena Prabhu Racharane.
When Sarup Damodar was residing at Navadvip under the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his name was Purushottam Acharya. Next verse.
Prabhura sannyasa dekhi unmata hana sannyasa grahana kale varanasi giya.
After seeing that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the renounced order, Purushottam Acharya became like a madman and immediately went to Varanasi to take sannyas. Go ahead.
Chaitanyananda Guru Tanra Agna Dilena Tanre Vedanta Padiya Pado Samasta Lokera.
At the conclusion of his sannyas, his spiritual master, Chaitanya Nanda Bharati, ordered him, read the Vedanta Sutra and teach it to all others. So Lord Chaitanya is giving an order to please read the Vedanta and teach it to all others. So the order of the spiritual master is very, very important. I was reading recently about Srila Prabhupada in Japan, and he went to visit and establish a relationship with Dai Nippon, the printers, because he had been conversing with them, I guess by letters. We didn't have email then, or text or anything. So by letters, so they set up an appointment with Srila Prabhupada. And Dai Nippon was extremely wealthy. The company itself took up several city blocks. It was a huge establishment. So during his visit, of course, he met with the organizers, the managers, and Srila Prabhupada had like a toothache and he needed dental care. So one of the Dai Nippon employees was a dentist. So he gladly offered his services to Srila Prabhupada. He said, I can do this, I can take care of the Swami, I can do it. So then they brought him to Srila Prabhupada, and it took several days, but the dentist made a mold to put in Prabhupada's tooth, and then he fitted it, and then he prepared a golden tooth, because Srila Prabhupada's tooth had actually fallen out. So that's why they had to do this emergency work. And Srila Prabhupada was so pleased with this young man that he actually hugged him and brought him to his chest, hugged him, and then rubbed his head like this, like a little child. He rubbed his head, was patting him on the head, and the dentist was like in ecstasy, telling him how happy he was that he could do some service for the Swami. And he said, I hope this tooth will last you a lifetime. And so it was a very loving exchange that Prabhupada gave. Also in Japan, Prabhupada had many programs. So at one program, and Jaishnav's going to like this story. At one program, there was a lot of visitors, and specifically there were 2 young Indian boys. I wish I knew their names, but I don't. There were 2 young Indian boys, and so they listened very attentively to Srila Prabhupada. And so after the lecture, they had a few questions. They were young. They were just barely, adults. In fact, they were probably teenagers. But they asked Srila Prabhupada, do you have some instruction for us? Dun, 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 dun. What's Prabhupada going to say? It's 2 young kids. He never saw them before. So he takes off his garland, and it was a huge garland, like big and puffy and fragrant. So Prabhupada gave them the garland, the both of them, and said, every day you eat 1 petal of the garland. What do you think, Jaishnav? So these 2 devotees were just ecstatic. They were so happy. They grabbed the garland. They touched it to their head. They took off a little petal. They ate it. The other guy took off a little petal. He ate it. And they had their instruction from Prabhupada to eat 1 petal every day. So I think about that sometimes, and I wonder how they do it. Do they have like a ceremony? Do they meet together? Do they, do the achman and eat the petal? So Srila Prabhupada's very expert at bringing out the best and blessings, so many blessings to these devotees, just amazing. So next verse, please, if anyone's...
Parama virakta tena parama pandita kaya mane astraya che Sri Krishna charita.
Could you chant like maybe 3 verses, because we're trying to get through this chapter. So chant a few more. Each devotee can chant like 3 verses. Is that okay?
Sure.
So right now I'll read the purport. Sarup Damodar, I read that one. I didn't? Oh, the Sarup 103? Okay, sorry. I guess I'm not here. Sarup Damodar was a great renunciate, as well as a great learned scholar. With heart and soul, he took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. 107. Go ahead, Vijay. Go ahead.
Nishinte Krishna Bajiba etakara ne unmade karila tena sannyasa grahane.
He was very enthusiastic to worship Sri Krishna without disturbance, and therefore, almost in madness, he accepted the sannyas order. Okay, next verse.
Sannyasa karile sikha sutra tyaga rupa yoga pata nanila nama hele swarupa.
Upon accepting sannyas, Purushottama Acharya followed the regulative principles as by giving up his tuft of hair and sacred thread, but he did not accept the saffron-colored dress. Also, he did not accept a sannyasi title, but remained as a Naishtika brahmachari. Purport. There are regulative principles governing the renounced order. One has to perform 8 kinds of shraddha. One must offer oblations to one's forefathers and perform the sacrifice of viraja homa. Then one must cut off the tuft of hair called isika and also give up the sacred thread. These are preliminary processes in the acceptance of sannyas, and Sarup Damodar accepted all these. However, Purushottama Acharya did not accept the saffron color, a sannyasi name, or a danda, And for this reason, he retained his brahmachari name. Actually, Purushottamacharya did not accept the sannyas order formally, but he renounced worldly life. He did not want to be disturbed by the formality of the sannyas order. He simply wanted to worship Lord Shri Krishna without disturbance. Therefore, with heart and soul, he took up the renounced order, but not the formalities accompanying it. Renunciation means not doing anything but serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. When one acts on this platform, trying to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is both a sannyas and a yogi. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 6:11. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Anasrita Karma Palam Karyam Karma Karotiya Sa Sannyasi Cha Yogi Cha Na Nir Na Chakriya. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he's obligated is in the renounced order of life, and he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no work. So Krishnadas Kaviraj is speaking, and Srila Prabhupada is speaking about Naistika Brahmachari and the Brahmachari life. And recently we had some visitors from Chaupati. I cannot remember his name, but he was Brahmachari. And so he said, Mataji, I have 2 questions. Can I ask you? And I thought, why is this Brahmachari asking an old lady for answers? He's got everything. He knows everything. So I said, okay. So he first asked a question. He was so respectful. He said, my brother is very ill. He's in a kind of a rehab home. And he's suffering. And so he said, what can I do? He's my brother. So all I could think of was that Srila Prabhupada says that the miracle food is milk. And I just simply said, I've had experience with devotees being ill, and they start taking whole raw milk. They boil it up, they offer it to their deities, or Radhakal Chanji, and they either have it plain with a little honey, or a little turmeric, or cinnamon, or just plain. And after drinking it for several months, their whole body changes. Their mind becomes clearer, their physical demeanor becomes more peaceful. So I shared that with him. And he was very grateful. He said, I'm going to call them today and tell them to start giving my brother hot milk every day. He goes, how much? And I said, 1 cup. So Srila Prabhupada writes in the Srimad Bhagavatam that milk is the miracle food that helps the finer brain tissues to be very healthy. So then he said, can I ask my next question? I said, yes. I was getting scared. And he said, Mataji. He said, my spiritual master, I don't see him very much. And I don't talk to him. I talk to the devotees, but how do I develop this relationship with my Guru Maharaj when I don't really see him very much? And I prayed to Krishna, please let me say something that's bona fide, authentic, pure. Please help me. Because this young kid, he was pretty young, and I said, the spiritual master and the disciple is a very, very intimate relationship. I said, you don't need to be face to face. You can just speak in your heart. You can have the association of devotees. And I said, all our spiritual masters in ISKCON are very, very exalted souls. And I said, they don't operate like we do. They have an intimate, personal, close relationship with the Super Soul and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the spiritual master will check in with you anytime, anywhere, any place. So be ready for him when he checks in, because he will check in. And that's when you have these overwhelming thoughts of attachment and love and eagerness to receive the shelter of the spiritual master. So I said, you may not expect it, you may not understand it. I said, but he will check in. They all check in. And what do they check in about? Your inner intent. Whatever you're doing, they understand your inner intent, and they're looking for, how can I please Krishna, as this verse was talking about. How can I please Krishna? What can I do? Because your master, your spiritual master, your father, will be there to check on you, not in a reprimanding way, but in a loving, affectionate way. He will check in and look at your heart and see what you're up to or what you're not up to. He'll see it all because he's empowered by the Super Soul. And the Super Soul tells the devotee everything and anything. So he said, oh, Mataji, thank you so much. That's amazing. I'm going to just prepare myself to be ready when my spiritual master comes to check on me, to make sure I'm Krishna conscious. And Krishna consciousness is not external. Of course, we dress and, we chant. But Srila Prabhupada was very specific. Just try to please Krishna always. So we had a very wonderful communication. Here's this brahmachari who's just a young kid, and he was asking, only because Srila Prabhupada gave me his causeless mercy. Okay, so next verse.
Kurutani agamagin airanila chale ratri dina Krishna prema ananda vale.
After taking permission from his sannyas guru, Swarup Damodar went to Nilachal and accepted the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then all day and night, in ecstatic love of Krishna, he enjoyed transcendental mellows in the loving service of the Lord. Text 110.
Panditayara avadi vakya nahi kara sane nirjane rahaye loka sabadahi jane.
Swarup Damodar was the limit of all learned scholarship, but he did not exchange words with anyone. He simply remained in a solitary place, and no one could understand where he was. Text
Krishna rasa tattva veti deha prema rupa sakshat Mahaprabhura dvitaya swarupa.
Sri Swarup Damodar was the personification of ecstatic love, fully cognizant of the transcendental mellows in relationship with Krishna. He directly represented Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as his second expansion. 112.
ग्रंथ श्लोक गीता के हा प्रभु पाशे आने स्वरूपा परीक्षा कैले पाचे प्रभु शुने.
If someone wrote a book or composed verses and songs and wanted to recite them before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Swarup Damodar would first examine them and then correctly present them. Only then would Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu agree to listen. 113.
भक्ति सिद्धांत विरुद्ध आर रसा भाषा शुनीते नाहाया प्रभुरा चित्तेरा उल्लासा.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was never pleased to hear books or verses opposed to the conclusive statements of devotional service. The Lord did not like hearing rasa bas, the overlapping of transcendental mellows. Purport. Bhakti Siddhanta Virudha refers to that which is against the principle of unity in diversity, philosophically known as a achincha beta beta, simultaneously oneness and difference, whereas rasa bas is something that may appear to be transcendental, a transcendental mellow, but actually it is not. Those who are pure Vaishnavas should avoid both these things opposed to devotional service. These misconceptions practically parallel the Mayavadi philosophy. If one indulges in Mayavada philosophy, he gradually falls down from the platform of devotional service. By overlapping mellows, rasabas, one eventually becomes a prakrita sahajya and takes everything to be very easy. One may also become a member of the Baula community and gradually become attracted to material activities. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has therefore advised us to avoid Bhakti Siddhanta Virudha and Rasabasa. In this way, the devotee can remain pure and free from fall downs. Everyone should try to remain aloof from Bhakti Siddhanta Virudha and Rasabas. 114.
अतएव स्वरूपागे करे परीक्षण शुद्धहया यदि प्रभुरे करना श्रवण.
It was the practice of Sarup Damodar Goswami to examine literatures to find out whether their conclusions were correct. Only then would he allow them to be heard by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purport. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that if something impedes the execution of devotional service, it should be understood to be impure. Pure devotees of the Lord do not accept impure principles. Impure devotees accept rasabasa or overlapping contradictory mellows and other principles opposed to the bhakti path. The followers of such impure principles are never accepted as pure devotees. There are many parties following the path of rasabas, and the followers are sometimes adored by ordinary men. Those who adopt the conclusions of rasabas and bhakti siddhanta virudha are never accepted as devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sarup Damodar Goswami never approved such followers as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, nor did he allow them even to meet the Supreme Lord, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we just read that Sri Sarup Damodar, he did not speak. He would just simply stay in a solitary place. But if someone wanted to offer Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu some verses or a book, then he would speak. He would examine it, study it, and if necessary, correct it in order for it to be pure, to be presented to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So here he is giving very delicate, scrutinizingly, as Prabhupada likes to use, the information that these devotees wanted Lord Chaitanya to read. Okay, next verse, Devi Radha.
Vidyapati Chandidasa Shri Gita Govinda Eiti na Gite Karana Prabhurananda.
Sri Sarup Damodar used to read the poems of Vidyapati and Chandidas and Jayadev Goswamis, Sri Gita Govinda. He used to make Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very happy by singing these songs. 116.
Sangite Gandharva Sama Shastre Brahaspati Damodara Sama Ara Nahi Mahamati.
Sarup Damodar was an expert musician. As the Gandharvas and in scriptural discussion, he was just like Brihaspati, the priest of the heavenly gods. Therefore, it is to be concluded that there was no great personality quite like Sarup Damodar. Purport. Sarup Damodar Goswami was very expert in music, as well as the Vedic scriptures. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to call him Damodara because of his expert singing and musical skills. The name Damodar was given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and added to the name given by his sannyas guru. He was therefore known as Sarup Damodar or Damodar Sarup. He compiled a book of music named Sangita Damodar. Next verse, please.
Advaita Nityanandera Parama Priyatma Sri Vasadi Bhakta Gauraheya Pranasama.
So there are many Vaishnavas who are very expert in singing. Narada Muni in his previous life was an expert Gandharva singer. And here Sarup Damodar is being explained as an expert Gandharva singer. Singing is so powerful, especially when it's connected to the Supreme Lord, because if one sings to please the Lord, then he's blessed. Sometimes when I'm checking my Gmail or Facebook, keeping in touch with my relatives, I see these different posts. So there's this one post that keeps on coming, and it's about a gentleman who's French. He's from France. He travels around in America. He lives in America with his wife, and he sings. And he sings to animals. So here's this guy, and so he saw there was a zoo, and there was a lion, and so there's like a gated fence, and then he sits and he has a guitar, and he starts singing. And all these animals start walking toward him. And this big, huge, ferocious lion, tigers, they sit down and they listen to him. And they start singing. You know, the guy is singing like, a song. And then the animals start going, oh, they start singing to this guy. And it's all kinds of animals. Big, huge elephants will sit down and start swaying their trunk and start doing their elephant melody. And horses, goats, lambs, cows. The cows come right up and they put their head, because there's no gate for the cows, they put their face and their head on his shoulder and will start nudging him back and forth. Because music goes right to the soul, it goes right to the heart. And people love music. And especially in the Vaishnava information that we have, the Gandharvas sing amazingly. So there's so many references to the beautiful singing of the Vaishnavas. Next verse, please. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to read the purport. Okay. Okay, 170. Translation. Sri Swarup Damodar was very dear to Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu, and he was the life and soul of all the devotees headed by Srivas Thakur. Next verse.
Sri Damodara Sri Dandavat Haila Karene Padiya Sloka Paditi Lagila.
When Swarup Damodar came to Jagannath Puri, he fell flat before the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, offering him obeisances and reciting the verse. 119, please.
Hello Dunita Kedia Vishadaya Pranamitlada Amodaya Samya Chastra Vivadya Rasadaya Chitta Pitanamadya Savadbhakti Vinodaya Sa Nadiya Madhuraya Maryadaya Sri Chaitanya Daya Nidhi Tava Daya Bhuyad Amado Daya.
O ocean of mercy, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, let there be an awakening of your auspicious mercy, which easily drives away all kinds of material lamentation by making everything pure and blissful. Indeed, your mercy awakens transcendental bliss and covers all material pleasures. By your auspicious mercy, quarrels and disagreements arising among different scriptures are vanquished. Your auspicious mercy pours forth transcendental mellows and thus causes the heart to jubilate. Your mercy, which is full of joy, always stimulates devotional service and glorifies conjugal love of God. May transcendental bliss be awakened within my heart by your causeless mercy. Purport. This important verse, Sri Chaitanya Chandrodaya Nataka 8:10, specifically describes the Lord's causeless mercy. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the most magnanimous personality of Godhead, distributes his causeless mercy in three ways to the conditioned souls. Every living entity is morose in the material world because he is always in want. He undergoes a great struggle for existence and tries to minimize his miserable condition by squeezing the utmost pleasure out of this world. But the living entity is never successful in his endeavor. While in a miserable condition, a person sometimes seeks the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But this is very difficult for materialistic people to obtain. However, when one becomes Krishna conscious by the grace of the Lord, the fragrance of the lotus feet of the Lord expands. And in this way, a materialistic man, a materialist may gain freedom from his miseries. Actually, his mind is cleansed by his transcendental connection. With the lotus feet of the Lord. At such a time, one is enlightened by the loving service of the Lord. There are many different kinds of scriptures, and by reading them, one often becomes puzzled. But when one receives the mercy of the Lord, his confusion is mitigated. Not only are scriptural disparities resolved, but a kind of transcendental bliss is awakened. And in this way, one is fully satisfied. The transcendental loving service of the Lord constantly engages the conditioned soul in serving the Lord's lotus feet. Through such fortunate engagement, one's transcendental love for Krishna is increased. One's position is thus completely purified, and one is filled. Can someone ask the devotees to cool it in the pujari room? They should be very quiet. They don't have to listen to me, but they need to be quiet or speak softly. Thank you. One's transcendental love for Krishna is awakened, is increased. One's position is thus completely purified, and one is filled with transcendental bliss, accompanied by the spirit soul's jubilation. Thus, the transcendental causeless mercy of Lord Krishna is manifested in the heart of the devotee. At such time, material needs no longer exist. The lamentation that invariably accompanies material desires also vanishes. By the grace of the Lord, one is elevated to the transcendental position, and then the transcendental mellows of the spiritual world are manifested in him. One's devotional service then becomes firm, and one engages in the Lord's transcendental loving service with great determination. All these combine to fully awaken the devotee's heart with love of Krishna. In the beginning, a conditioned soul is bereft of Krishna consciousness and is always morose in his material activities. Later, by associating with a pure devotee, one becomes inquisitive to know the absolute truth. In this way, one begins to engage in the transcendental service of the Lord. Next, by the Lord's grace, all misconceptions are vanquished, and the heart is cleansed of all material dirt. It is only then that the pleasure of transcendental bliss is awakened. By the Lord's mercy, one is completely convinced of the value of devotional service. When one can see the pastimes of the Lord everywhere, he is firmly situated in transcendental bliss. Such a devotee is relieved of all kinds of material desires, and he preaches the glories of the Lord all over the world. These Krishna conscious activities separate him from material activities, and the desire for liberation, because at every step the devotee feels himself connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although such a devotee may sometimes be involved in household life, he is untouched by material existence due to his constant engagement in devotional service. Thus, everyone is advised to take shelter of devotional service to become happy and liberated. So in this verse, in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is speaking about the importance of taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. In fact, he mentions it 3 times. By the loving service of the Lord. And the lotus feet of the Lord, the transcendental loving service of the Lord, constantly engages the conditioned soul in serving the Lord's lotus feet. And by such service, one's transcendental love for Krishna is increased, and one's existence is completely purified. And the spirit soul experiences jubilation. So also in the previous verse, Srila Prabhupada was speaking about that Swarup Damodar Prabhu had qualities like Brihaspati. And apparently many devotees have qualities like Brihaspati, because in the previous verses, Srila Prabhupada was speaking about Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and how he was actually Brihaspati. So we have Swarup Damodar Goswami, who is Brihaspati, and then we have here Swarup Damodar has qualities like Brihaspati. So the demigods, the devotees, they're all very, very close to the Supreme Lord. And they exchange all these qualities of love that increases their love for Krishna. Okay, so text 120, if anybody has the mic.
Utana Mahaprabhu Kaila Lingana Dui Jane Prema Vese Haila Chetana.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu raised Swarup Damodar to his feet and embraced him. They both became ecstatic in love and fell unconscious. So here's a glimpse of the loving exchanges between the Lord and his devotee. Another thing on YouTube I get a lot of Christians singing. And it's beautiful because they're praising the Lord. They're praising Lord Jesus, who is the Son of God. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu raised Swarup Damodar to his feet and embraced him. So the Christians have a song, "You raise me up." And when they sing it, it's like your heart goes boom, because it's so loving and it's gentle and it's beautiful. And they just keep singing it because everyone knows in the material world we're down on the ground. So when the Lord comes and raises you up, then we feel very ecstatic. What time is it? Is it time to end? Okay, we'll stop here. Any comments? I don't know about questions, but I'll try. Jaishnav, you have a question? You have a comment? When are you going to give class? Srila Prabhupada said that the devotees could become initiated at 12 years old. In fact, our Pujari, Sudhir Krishna, I knew him when he was just a little boy. He was like 10 and then 12, and then he took initiation by Srila Prabhupada. He's Prabhupada's disciple, and he was just a little kid. So Srila Prabhupada initiated many devotees at this young age. And so it's very ecstatic. And in our movement, many of the spiritual masters representing Srila Prabhupada, they give initiation to 12-year-olds. Risheshri is waiting to get initiated because she's so enthusiastic. She's such an enthusiastic child. And I remember when I took initiation, I was 18. And the temple president came to me and he said, "Mataji, it's time for you to take initiation." And I said, "But I don't want to take initiation." He said, "Why not?" I said, "Because now I'm just a teenager, but when I grow up, when I'm 50, will I be able to chant Hare Krishna?" I said, "This is a lifetime vow." I said, I don't know what to do. He said, "Mataji, you're a devotee. You need to get initiated." So I took initiation, and it was by letter. And then I saw Prabhupada personally. So initiation is a very big step forward to connecting with the spiritual master, to connecting with Krishna. And so I remember that 6 months later they said, "Mataji, we need you to take Brahman initiation." And goes, I don't want to be a Brahmin. I said, I don't know anything about spiritual life. I said, Brahmin is a big word. And they said, Mataji, you're doing fine. We need more pujaris. Okay, that's it. Hari Hari Bol. Thank you for listening and being ecstatic and jubilant. Jubilation. So that's the word of the day, jubilation. Thank you, Haribo. Happy breakfast. Oh, I just had one quick thing. My son-in-law, his name is Sanatan, and his father was Prajapati. So Prajapati gave me a bunch of papers. So this is very quick. It's a prayer from King Yudhisthira. King Yudhisthira was the king of the planet. He was the emperor of the world, not just, India, all over. He was emperor of the seas and the oceans and the people, the demigods, the creatures, the animals. So here's the prayer to Lord Krishna from King Yudhisthira. My dear Lord Krishna, great personalities and devotees in full Krishna consciousness always think of your lotus feet and remain fully satisfied by drinking the nectar of transcendental bliss. The nectar which they constantly drink sometimes comes out of their mouths and is sprinkled on others as the narration of your transcendental activities. This nectar comes from the mouth of a devotee, is so powerful that if one is fortunate enough to have the opportunity to drink it, he immediately becomes freed from the continuous journey of birth and death. Our material existence is caused by our forgetfulness of your personality, but unfortunately, the darkness of forgetfulness is immediately dissipated if one is privileged to hear about your glories. This is from the Krishna book. And it's a prayer that Maharaj Yudhisthira offered to Krishna. So here we are. Our birth and death is being stopped just by hearing these pastimes. Thank you, Haribol. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for your love. Yeah, I thought